Shouldn't a sister come before a wife? A wedding is supposed to be an irreplaceable event for a couple. During the moment of the cake cutting, which is said to be their first collaboration, Chris pushed me aside to call his sister, Maya.
Here, hold the knife.
What? Really? Yay! The cake cutting, which was supposed to be done by Chris and me. Yet, in front of me, Chris and Maya were eagerly working with happy expressions on their faces. I knew Chris adored Maya. But doesn't he understand there's a line between what's acceptable and what's not? I've been patient until now, but I've reached my limit. I don't care if I'm seen as selfish anymore.
The wedding is off.
I demanded the cancellation of the wedding. My name is Olivia Adams, I'm 27 years old and single. I live at my parents' house while working at a design firm. I'm really happy that I can lead such a peaceful life, helped by my kind parents and colleagues. I also had a husband once. His name was Chris Parker. Chris and I met when we were in high school. At that time, I was starting a new life without any friends. I worried that I might not make any friends for the next 3 years. These thoughts kept going around in my head, and there were nights before the entrance ceremony when I couldn't sleep. On the day of the entrance ceremony, I headed to high school with determination. I was nervous on the way there, but for some reason, once I entered the classroom and sat down, the nervousness disappeared. Taking a deep breath and looking around the classroom, I thought that maybe I could manage after all. This thought made me feel even lighter. After the entrance ceremony ended and I went home, I pondered my high school life. What club should I join? Which elective courses should I choose? There were so many events unique to the new term, and I couldn't wait. Then, a month later, I had made friends and joined a club. It seemed like I could keep up with my studies after all. I was leading a very ordinary life. One day, I became friends with a boy. That was Chris. We were in the same class and club, so I knew of him, but that was about it. We had never talked before. But then, we happened to be alone together. I was waiting for my mom to pick me up at the school gate when I saw Chris there. No one else was around, and I could hear the sound of the trees rustling in the wind. Feeling a bit awkward, I was about to take out my smartphone when,
What's the first period tomorrow?
I heard Chris's voice.
What was it?
Math?
Oh, right. Math.
Thanks. Chris started talking to me, and although I was surprised, I didn't mind at all. In fact, I wondered if this could be an opportunity to become friends with him.
Are you good at math? Not really, I'm not great at studying in general, actually. Oh, is that so? That's surprising.
Despite not knowing much about Chris, I found myself surprised and said so out loud.
Surprising? Oh, sorry. It's just, you seemed like you'd be good at studying from your vibe.
What? You can tell I'm good at studying from my vibe? Well, you seem like you'd be good at it too, you know? Really? Do you think so? Chris laughed at my comment. I was somehow pleased by that fact. This conversation brought us closer. We started talking in class and going to club activities together. I often helped Chris with his studies during breaks and after school since he was not good at them. Chris struggled with studying more than I had expected. However, he would understand if I explained things to him one by one carefully. Because of this, I found great satisfaction in teaching him, and I started to enjoy studying with Chris. Because of this lifestyle, we would often get teased by our classmates and club members. Chris would deny it, but his face seemed to turn a little red, as if he was embarrassed. Surprisingly, I never felt bad about it. A year passed, and we became sophomores in high school. As the new term began and both studies and club activities settled down, Chris confessed his feelings to me.
I've always liked you.
Hearing Chris's words made me happy. At the same time, I realized again that I indeed liked Chris too. I liked you too. Please be my boyfriend. Hearing my response, Chris seemed relieved. He leaned back in his chair and murmured, "I'm glad." And so, we began dating. I wonder what kinds of views we'll see together in the future. I hope we can always be together, without worrying about how long forever will last. I thought about this idly. Since we started dating, the distance between Chris and me naturally closed in. Talking in the classroom and going to club activities together was a given, and we also started commuting to school together. On holidays, we would go on dates, and opportunities to visit each other's homes began to arise. Chris's house was a luxurious single-family home. Given that it was my boyfriend's house, I would get nervous no matter how many times I visited. "You don't need to be so nervous," Chris would say with a laugh. About 6 months into our relationship, after finishing a date as usual, I visited Chris's house. In the living room, there was a girl I didn't recognize. However, I quickly realized who she was. His sister. I had been told before that Chris had a sister. But this was my first time meeting her.
Oh, Maya. Aren't you going out with friends today? Brother. Yeah. Everyone's busy.
The girl called Maya said, looking happy as she threw her arms around Chris. He hugged her back, laughing. They seemed very close as siblings, which made me smile. Then, she glanced at me.
Who's this? Oh. Could it be your girlfriend? Girlfriend. Well, yeah. This is Olivia.
It must have been embarrassing for him to introduce me as his girlfriend again. His face turning red as he introduced me. Hearing my name, Maya, with the same joy she showed when hugging Chris, began to introduce herself.
I'm his sister, Maya. I'm so happy to meet you. Maya, right? Thank you. I'm happy to meet you too.
While Maya and I were talking, Chris was looking at us with a gentle gaze. Afterwards, Chris and I went to his room.
Your sister is cute. Right? Maya is really cute and hardworking. She's truly a sister to be proud of.
Chris leaned in eagerly and started talking passionately about Maya. Maya is 3 grades below us. She's cute, hardworking, and unlike me, she's good at studying. Apparently, she's usually either at club activities or hanging out with friends after school and on holidays, so she's often not home when I visit Chris's house. Anyway, Chris and Maya are very close. Hearing his passionate talk, I felt that way.
You two really are close, aren't you? Yeah, we are.
At that time, I didn't feel any discomfort about the closeness between Chris and Maya. I just thought they were a sweet pair of siblings. However, a slightly unsettling incident occurred. It happened about a month after I first met Maya. While I was playing with my smartphone in Chris's room, there was a knock at the door. "Come in," we said, and Maya entered. She had a tray in her hands.
I brought some juice and snacks.
She placed glasses of apple juice in front of us and sat down too.
Thank you. No problem. Drink up.
The day we first met, we had a chance to talk before I left, and that's when we quickly became close. We decided to drop the formal speech and titles, and interact like friends. Maya is very friendly and easy to talk to. I hoped she enjoyed talking to me as much as I enjoyed talking to her. As the 3 of us chatted about various things, I realized an hour had passed in no time. It seems I wasn't the only one who noticed.
Is it already this late? Wow. We've been talking for quite a while, huh?
Chris and Maya looked at each other and laughed. The next moment, Chris pulled Maya close and hugged her. I knew they were close and often engaged in physical affection. But that moment surprised me. Their physical closeness wasn't just that of siblings. It looked more like what a couple would share.
Maya. Hey, brother. Stop it. It tickles.
Chris buried his face in Maya's neck. Although Maya told him to stop because it tickled, her tone didn't seem at all like she was against it. Rather, she seemed to be enjoying it. I couldn't help but ask.
Wow. You two are really close, huh?
After asking, I immediately regretted it, wondering if it was too much of a prying question. But neither of them seemed to mind. In fact, they appeared happy to be acknowledged for their closeness. Honestly, watching this scene made me feel a sense of discomfort about how close they were. However, being an only child, I'm not familiar with what a normal sibling closeness looks like. All I could do was quietly observe as they continued their physical affection. As time went on, the closeness between Chris and Maya remained unchanged, and I found myself witnessing their physical affection more frequently. Eventually, the time came for Chris and me to go to college. Without planning or coordinating it, we ended up attending the same university, although we were in different departments. We both started living on our own, and the time we spent together increased even more. On holidays, we would go out on dates, but we mostly hung out at one another's places, finishing assignments or watching movies. I hadn't seen Maya since starting college.
Have you seen Maya lately? Is she doing well?
I would occasionally bring up Maya, purely out of genuine concern for how she was doing. Each time, Chris would eagerly share stories about Maya.
About Maya, she's really been getting cuter lately. I mean, she's always been cute, but it's like she's gotten even cuter now. Oh, look. Here, this is a recent photo of Maya. She's really cute, isn't she?
Chris pulled out his smartphone from his pocket and showed me a photo of Maya.
She's so cute. Right? And also,
when I mentioned how cute she was, Chris began showing me numerous photos of Maya from his folder. Indeed, Maya was cute. However, I couldn't shake off a certain unease. It was the stark difference in how he treated Maya compared to me. I knew Chris adored Maya and understood why he would use affectionate words towards her. However, he tended to be rather dry with me, his girlfriend. I've never been praised as much as Maya, nor called cute. I understood that a girlfriend and a sister are different, and I could tell from his usual behavior that Chris held different feelings for each of us. Yet, being in a relationship with Chris, I couldn't help but wish he would praise me a bit more. If asked whether I was jealous, I couldn't deny it. That's how much I questioned the relationship between Chris and Maya. Naturally, I couldn't bring myself to express these thoughts to Chris, so I quietly listened to him talk. About 6 months after we started college, I visited Chris's house as usual.
I'm here. Oh. These shoes. Maya's here today. Is she?
Until then, Maya had never been at the house during my visits. Confused, I followed Chris to the living room, where Maya was lounging on the sofa, playing with her smartphone. Nearby lay a designer bag that seemed too luxurious for her age. Around her neck and ears were brand logo accessories that also seemed too mature for her.
Oh. Olivia. Long time no see. Yeah, it's been a while. Huh? He didn't tell you I was coming? I thought I'd try doing a surprise. You know, since Olivia likes Maya, I thought she'd be surprised to see her at home without knowing.
Chris spoke proudly, and Maya looked pleased.
Really? Olivia? Yes, I was surprised, but happy. Yay!
Maya sat up to talk to me, then sank back into the sofa. Normally, Chris would sit next to me, but that day he chose to sit near Maya. I found myself sitting alone on the carpet.
Brother, it's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been like, 2 weeks?
If 2 weeks was considered a long time, I wondered how often they usually met. Watching them intertwine hands and engage in physical affection like a couple, I couldn't help but think. Chris and Maya continued to be engrossed in their own world, leaving no room for me to fit in, which left me feeling bewildered. I had plans to watch a movie with Chris today, but given the circumstances, that seemed unlikely. Without disturbing Chris and Maya, I quietly started working on my university assignments. Before I knew it, 2 hours had passed since I arrived. My assignments were almost finished. Chris and Maya were still deeply immersed in their own conversation. Their casual chatter and physical affection reached my ears. "You two really are close, aren't you?" I tried to interject, my words laced with a hint of sarcasm. However, my sarcasm didn't get through.
Right. We're really close.
Their spirits lifted even further, and they exchanged glances. Regretting my unnecessary comment, I realized I needed to express my feelings clearly. Later, when I had Chris to myself, I decided to voice my concerns.
About Maya. What about Maya? You want to see her again? If that's the case.
No, it's not that. I mean, it's great that you two are close, but maybe you could pay a bit more attention to me too. Chris looked surprised at my words. But then he laughed off the situation as usual and responded.
What, are you jealous? It's not exactly jealousy, but… Me and Maya are just siblings, nothing weird going on. Don't worry about it so much.
Chris seemed to take my concerns lightly, laughing them off as if they were nothing. The excessive closeness between Chris and Maya didn't stop. It became normal for Maya to be around when I was with Chris. And they continued to engage in physical affection even in my presence.
I don't mind you being close to Maya, but I'd prefer if you did that when I'm not around.
Even when I said this, Chris didn't take me seriously.
Really, you're making a big deal out of it? Like I said, Maya and I are just siblings. It's normal for us. You're overreacting.
Chris dismissed my concerns with a laugh, making light of the situation. I often thought about ending the relationship because of this. But I haven't taken any steps to actually do it. Perhaps the main reason I didn't have the energy to start a new relationship from scratch was the lack of motivation and spirit after thinking about breaking up with Chris. If I had ended things when I first felt uncomfortable, it wouldn't have escalated to such a big issue. Looking back, I even felt irritated with my past self. Despite everything, we graduated from college and became working adults, carrying our relationship into this new phase of life. My feelings for Chris were complicated, but my affection for him remained unchanged. After becoming working adults, it seemed like the interactions between Chris and Maya decreased. Whether he finally recognized how uncomfortable their closeness made me feel, or he was just too busy with work. I couldn't know his true intentions, but I began to think that perhaps he had finally come to understand my feelings, as I chose to interpret his actions in a way that was convenient for me. And about 5 years after we became working adults, I received a marriage proposal from him.
I'll definitely make you happy.
Chris conveyed his feelings to me with a serious expression. Looking back, my acceptance might have been questionable. But at that moment, I still loved him.
Yes, please take care of me.
I responded, agreeing to his proposal. We decided to embark on a happy life together. After that, we got married. Then, we moved into a small apartment to start our new life. However, this change seemed to reignite his interactions with Maya. She began to appear at our home more frequently, and the life that was supposed to be just for him and me increasingly included her as a third member.
Olivia, what's for dinner tonight? Eh? You're eating here again today? Of course. I've been eating here every day recently.
Maya would say as if it were the most natural thing in the world, joining us at the dinner table. Honestly, I wasn't happy about it. Naturally, I couldn't ask her directly to refrain from coming over so often, so I discussed it with Chris. However, his response was always the same.
Just until the wedding is over. Bear with it until then.
Chris seemed to believe that his interactions with Maya should be tolerated until after the wedding. While I understood, given everything that had happened, I found it hard to trust him completely. Indeed, his behavior towards her was excessive. He would cancel dates with me to go out with her. He bought her designer accessories and cosmetics, continuing to spoil her. And Maya seemed to be quite happy with the arrangement. But I kept telling myself it was just a matter of enduring until the wedding was over. The truth was, I couldn't bring myself to fully trust him, yet I still wanted to believe in him. However, one day, an incident occurred that pushed me beyond my limit of patience. The incident happened during our wedding. A celebration meticulously planned through numerous meetings to ensure it was something we both would be happy with. I was truly looking forward to it. Chris seemed to share my anticipation for the wedding. Despite everything that had happened, I believed Chris loved me. That's why we were together. Thinking this filled my heart with joy. The ceremony concluded without a hitch, and the reception began. As the MC guided the proceedings, the reception moved forward, and it was time for the cake cutting. We were handed the knife by the staff, and we started walking towards the cake. However, Chris pushed me aside to call his sister, Maya.
Here, hold the knife. What? Really? Yay!
Initially surprised when called, Maya quickly grasped the situation and ran over to us. The cake cutting, which was supposed to be done by Chris and me. Yet, in front of me, Chris and Maya were eagerly working with happy expressions on their faces.
Excuse me?
As I tried to speak up, clearly bewildered, Chris responded with a laugh, making a startling statement.
Shouldn't a sister come before a wife?
I knew Chris adored Maya. But doesn't he understand there's a line between what's acceptable and what's not? The moment I heard those words, something inside me crumbled away. I've been patient until now, but I've reached my limit. I don't care if I'm seen as selfish anymore.
The wedding is off.
I demanded the cancellation of the wedding.
Why?
Questions arose, but I didn't let them bother me. I asked the staff at the venue to arrange for the guests to leave. As they did, I looked each one in the face and apologized. I felt terrible for all the people who had taken time out of their days to attend. Before I knew it, relatives other than Chris and Maya were lined up beside me, apologizing. After all the guests had left, only a few relatives and staff members remained in the venue. It was enveloped in an indescribable atmosphere, and it seemed that some looked bewildered, others angry. But it was my father who broke the silence.
What was that all about? Hey, you! What are you doing acting so strangely?
Well,
it's not well. Why did you call your sister to that moment? Don't you understand how inappropriate that is? Can't you imagine how Olivia felt watching that? Exactly. The wedding is supposed to be about you and Olivia. Don't you understand there are things you just don't do? This is just the worst.
After being scolded by both of my parents, Chris fell silent. Beside him, Maya also looked down awkwardly. Then my mother-in-law spoke up.
You too. Don't just stand there silently, say something. You've ruined the wedding and you have nothing to say for yourselves? Don't you realize you did something wrong?
I'm sorry. Sorry. They apologized reluctantly, but it was clear they didn't truly understand the depth of their actions. Maya seemed almost to think she hadn't done anything wrong.
What exactly do you think you did wrong? What are you apologizing for? You need to make that clear.
Normally, I try not to raise my voice. It seemed he was bewildered to witness me being so clearly and understandably angry. But there was no way my anger could subside. I had been patient for too long. This much was forgivable.
Come on. Say it quickly. Don't you understand? I'm sorry for calling Maya over at that moment. At that moment? Which moment? Say it clearly. The cake cutting.
Chris looked down and mumbled an answer to my question. His apology came, but naturally, I had no intention of forgiving him.
Hey, Maya. Don't you have anything to say? Why did you go up there?
Well, I was called over. But am I really the one to blame?
Even though Chris started it, you were the one who went up there. Don't you get it?
After being chastised by her father, Maya fell silent. Because she's sulking, waiting for her to say more would probably be futile.
Did you not realize doing such a thing at a wedding is the lowest? I knew you two were close, but I expected you wouldn't do anything at the wedding. I thought this would be the last chance to make my sister happy. What? You did that for such a reason? Aren't you being too selfish? I was wrong to marry you. Let's get divorced.
Marrying Chris was a mistake. That was my candid feeling. Realizing talking further with Chris would lead nowhere, I began to prepare to leave. While some were shocked by the mention of divorce, no one tried to stop me. They must have agreed with my decision after seeing Chris's actions. I apologized to the staff and everyone involved and went to the dressing room. Then, I returned home in my father's car, packed my belongings, and went back to my parents' house. I couldn't stay married to Chris any longer. Seeing his actions earlier, that's what I thought. Even as I packed my things at home and after I arrived at my parents' house, he followed, begging for reconciliation. It didn't seem like anyone encouraged him to chase after me. He probably came of his own accord, ignoring his family's attempts to stop him.
Come on, don't talk about divorce. Please. We just got married, didn't we? Please reconsider.
I can't reconsider. It's over.
But this is so sudden.
Sudden? Don't you remember how many times I've asked you to stop doing certain things?
It's always about you and Maya. I really don't understand.
Chris seemed to want to say more, his mouth moving wordlessly. However, I wasn't in a forgiving mood.
Just go home. We'll contact you about what comes next. Hey! If you come here uninvited again, I'll call the police. Got it? Now leave.
I forcibly pushed him outside and closed the door. What do I need to do next? I started to feel suddenly exhausted, and the more I thought about it, the more my head ached. But I wasn't alone. I had my parents. Thinking it was okay to rely on them during times like this, I started to unpack. 2 weeks later, I called Chris and Maya to my parents' house. Chris seemed smaller than the last time I saw him. But Maya was sulkily the same as ever. I'm really sorry. Chris immediately apologized to me and my parents upon entering the living room. It seemed like he might be remorseful, but it was hard to tell if it was genuine.
It's good you managed to apologize, but I won't forgive you. Sit down there.
Yes. When I instructed them to sit down, they reluctantly took a seat on the sofa.
I've said it before, but I want a divorce. I won't ask for any money from you, but I do want you to pay for the wedding cancellation fee. Huh? Why?
Chris's reaction showed he hadn't truly reflected.
Why? Do I need to start from the beginning for you to understand? But you're the one who said to cancel the wedding. Don't you understand that this all started because of you? If you hadn't done something so absurd, we wouldn't be in this situation. I thought if you truly understood that, you'd at least agree to pay the cancellation fee without a fuss. I understand that, but still.
Chris seemed completely unprepared to discuss money, almost as if he hadn't considered it at all. Given his reaction, it wouldn't be surprising if he had assumed I would cover all the cancellation fees.
But? What? It would be quite the nerve to make excuses in this situation. I get that I was at fault. But isn't it a bit much to have me cover all the cancellation fees? Even if I was the cause, shouldn't we split it in situations like this? Can you really say something like that after admitting you were at fault? What if the roles were reversed? You'd probably demand I pay all the cancellation fees, wouldn't you? Haven't we talked numerous times about reconsidering your relationship with Maya? This incident was the result of you going too far, wasn't it?
Frustrated with Chris's logic, I pressed on. Without this, Chris's perspective would likely remain unchanged.
It's not about being stingy with money. If you're truly sorry, you should be able to cover at least this much. It's a matter of principle. If you think I'm being greedy, then it means you haven't fully reflected on your actions.
At that moment, my father, who had been silent until then, spoke up.
Chris, you often buy your sister expensive bags and jewelry, don't you? Why can you spend money on your sister but not on Olivia? You might say these are two different matters, but doesn't that seem a bit too convenient? If you love Maya that much, you should have married her. No matter how much I wanted time for just the two of us, you never listened. We're siblings, so it can't be helped, you said, never paying me any mind. Things got a bit better for a while, but after we got married, it went right back. You said it was just enduring until the wedding, then you started canceling plans with me. So, you're okay with the divorce but making a fuss about not wanting to pay the cancellation fees?
It was baffling that Chris wouldn't object to our relationship ending, but only the part about paying the cancellation fees. Whether our words reached him or he just wanted to end the conversation, Chris finally spoke up, head bowed.
I understand. I'm sorry. I'll pay and I'll proceed with the divorce. After all this, you finally understand.
Sign the divorce papers, then. Since money is involved, I've prepared the documents for the cancellation fee. Sign these too. Chris reluctantly signed the divorce papers and the documents. Meanwhile, Mia sulkily fiddled with her nails beside him. Honestly, there was no specific reason to call Maya here. But since she was involved in the incident, I wondered if she had anything to say.
Maya, don't you have anything to say?
Huh?
Are you saying I should apologize? I don't get it. It's not about apologizing, but...
She no longer seemed the innocent and cute Maya I knew. Actually. In the next moment, she revealed an unexpected truth that took everyone by surprise.
I'm getting dragged into this mess, and it's annoying. Just so you know, I don't like Chris.
What? Maya, who had always been so attached to Chris, actually disliked him. Everyone was shocked. But Chris was the most stunned.
It's just creepy. It was fine when I was little, but it's been too much since I became a high schooler. Then why were you always like that around me?
Chris's question led Maya to make an even more shocking statement.
Because you gave me money.
What?
Or rather, if I acted sweet and cozy, you would buy me anything. There was even a time I asked for something I thought you definitely wouldn't buy, but you did, and I was totally taken aback.
Like, do you like me that much? It seemed she had a lot on her mind regarding her brother. Her words knew no bounds, as she continued to express her mounting grievances towards him.
All of your actions were repulsive to me. Being asked to go out together, you clinging to me, it was all truly annoying and creepy. Think about your age, will you? Plus, behaving the same way as before despite having a wife is problematic. Oh, right, because you won't have a wife soon, that makes it okay? Then why were you always so clingy with me? I already told you. Because you would buy me anything and everything. You seriously thought I actually liked you? Even during the wedding cake incident, you thought you were making me happy, but honestly, it was a huge inconvenience for me. Now I'm being blamed too. Can you not involve me in your self-satisfaction?
I no longer cared about receiving an apology from Maya. Her statement was that shocking.
Are you serious? Do you think I'm lying now, after all this? Maybe it's time you faced reality.
Laughter from Maya echoed through the house. Looking at Chris, he was crushed by a sense of despair. The shock was so great that an indescribable silence filled the room, leaving everyone unable to speak. However, my mother was the one to break the silence.
Maybe you did dislike Chris. But were you ever forced into anything by him?
Huh?
What do you mean? I understand you acted sweetly towards Chris for money. But you should know better. Take the wedding incident, for example. Yes, Chris called you up there, but you had the option to refuse. Yet, you prioritized your desires. Chris is the most at fault, no doubt, but you're quite unreasonable too, you know?
Maya's face twisted in frustration.
What? Are you lecturing me? Yes, is there something wrong with that? Do you understand how infuriating it is to have someone ruin our precious daughter's wedding and then act as if she hasn't reflected on her actions at all? You don't seem to get it, judging by your attitude. What? You old hag. Just keep quiet.
Provoked by my mother's words, Maya became furious. And my mother, not to be outdone, retorted to Maya. Maya's reaction could be seen as lashing out. It's too convenient to think she's done nothing wrong after everything that's happened. Then, Chris spoke.
Maya, please stop.
What?
It was my fault. No, our fault.
Our fault?
Why am I included?
He probably didn't want to lecture her. But hearing Maya's words, one must wonder if it's possible to continue spoiling her like this.
Olivia. Is it okay if Chris and Maya cover the cancellation fee together?
What?
Of course, I don't want to lessen my own burden. If Olivia wants, I'm willing to pay whatever amount. But as Mom said, Maya and I are entirely at fault for what happened at the wedding.
We need to take responsibility.
Hey! Don't decide on your own.
Maya started to protest, but Chris calmed her down. His look was not that of a brother indulging his sister. Maya, it's time to grow up. I mean, not that I'm one to talk. If Olivia and your parents agree, that's what I'd like to do. After hearing what Maya said, I realize I've spoiled her too much. You couldn't see the situation until it got this bad. I'm truly sorry.
All right, that's fine by me.
Maya's face was twisted with anger.
This is the worst. I won't pay for anything. How long will you keep saying that? I'll talk to Dad about today's events, including your attitude and how you talked back to Olivia's mother. It's decided, so give it up. Really, what is this?
Maya continued to throw tantrums until the very end. However, it seemed she realized that insisting on her point of view wouldn't change the outcome, and by the end of the conversation, she had quieted down. My divorce from Chris was finalized smoothly. As agreed, Chris and Maya took on the wedding cancellation fees. I heard from Chris that after our conversation, he lost contact with Maya. Ultimately, Chris lost his wife, the money, and the sister he doted on, bringing the incident to a close. After being abandoned by Maya and perhaps feeling lonely, Chris's emails became more frequent post-divorce. They ranged from updates on his life to pleas for reconciliation. However, being approached now doesn't change my feelings. Ignoring his messages, they eventually stopped, probably out of his resignation. A year has passed since then, and I'm living at my parents' house, focusing on my job. Despite what happened, I'm grateful that the colleagues who were invited to the wedding haven't changed their treatment of me. I wish I could forget such a disastrous event, but it's too shocking to ever fully erase from my memory. There's a part of me that regrets not being more cautious, and for being too optimistic, to be honest. But what's happened has happened, and there's no changing it. All I can do now is look forward and keep moving. Today, as always, I live my life supported by those around me. I cherish this environment and aim to lead a life without regrets from now on.